Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop?
Alright Hollywood, what if you could inject youth but had to share your body with the monster it creates? I just watched The Substance, a disturbing, stylish, and brutally original body horror film starring Demi and Margaret Qualley. And let me tell you, I've seen things I can't unsee. If you're curious but too afraid to dive in, don't worry. I watched The Substance so you don't have to. By the by, I'm the movie guy and let's start this video. So we start off with a montage showing how time is the greatest enemy of fame. Elizabeth Sparkle was a huge name in the acting world, big enough to get her own plaque on Hollywood Boulevard. Soon though, people stopped caring about her and Elizabeth now works as a host of a home gym show for women. Not for long though, as she overhears her boss searching for someone younger and better looking to replace her. Elizabeth gets fired during her birthday in a disgusting scene that I think will be topped by this movie. See, the producer is eating some shrimp in the most appalling way possible. I just don't like to look at people eating. Elizabeth is driving when she gets into a car accident. She's fine, but one of the nurses takes a look at her spine. He says that she's a perfect candidate. Both me and Elizabeth are creeped out by this scene. The nurse slid something into her jacket pocket. It's a USB drive for something called The Substance and a phone number. The Substance promises a better version of yourself, a prettier and younger version that you have to split your life with. 7 days is your turn, 7 days is hers, but both versions have to live as one. She throws the USB drive in the trash, but after a drunken night out and finding out about a newspaper casting call for her role, she decides to call the number on the USB drive. She gets an address and she goes there. At the address, she finds a box. In the box, there are different vials with substances and instructions. There is a substance to activate the thing, which she only has to do once, one to stabilize, which she has to do daily, and one to swap, which she has to do every 7 days and no exceptions. The creepy tutorial and music does not make Elizabeth back down. She wants to be famous again, so she goes through with it. She injects the activator into her veins, and then a very graphic scene happens. Elizabeth was already fully naked, but then from her body, all of her cells duplicate, and another younger version of herself comes out through her spine. We see Elizabeth looking at her old body with a ripped back where her spine was, and we see her checking herself out in the window. In the box there was also wire and scissors, so the younger Elizabeth sews up the other one and injects her with some vials. She also has to stabilize, which consists of getting a stabilizer fluid from her old self's spine. Enter another graphic scene. But now Elizabeth is alright. She knows what she has to do next. Go to the casting call and get Sparkle's job back. She picks up a very revealing outfit and heads to the audition. She presents herself as Sue, and that's how we will talk about her from now on. Needless to say, she gets the part and organizes a scheduling change. She will work 1 week and then the other she will be taking care of her mother who is sick. 1 week passes of her living her dream life, but now she has to switch bodies, which is another horrendous work. She has to switch blood from one body to the other, but it works and Elizabeth is back and Sue is no more. That was the end of Act 1 and man, I'm so hooked. I think the best part of the movie up until now is the camera work. So often it's claustrophobic, closing in on walls, people chewing or sewing up a back. The color palette is also impressive, a lot of white, pink, orange so far. It's a very graphic film, so maybe don't watch it with your parents or anyone else if it makes you feel uncomfortable. I'll give it a bit of criticism. The steps to use the substance were very counterintuitive. I have no idea how Elizabeth figured out how to use what because nothing is really spelled out. We don't spend a lot of time as Elizabeth. Just like us, she can't wait to return to being Sue. She receives a letter saying that her substance has been refilled. She picks it up and after wasting her time on TV for 7 days, she returns to being Sue. Now she creates a secret room inside the bathroom where she can hide her other self. Up until now, they were just left lying on the ground in the bathroom. Everything that Sue does is overly sexual. Her dances, her outfits, her expressions. I'm left wondering why would Elizabeth want something like this? Maybe it's not my place to judge. Sue is going out despite it being close to swap time. She's too reckless this time. She brings a guy home just as she's supposed to swap. Every time she fails to take the stabilizer or swap, she bleeds out of her nose and has terrible pain, which is the case here. She's not allowed to miss swapping, but she wants to, so she milks Elizabeth for just one more day, breaking the rules. The next day, she gives back control to Elizabeth, but now we have a bigger problem. Because Sue broke the rules, Elizabeth lost some humanity, it feels like. Her finger now looks like a dead girl's finger. She gives Sue a look that makes me think that they are beginning to be different. Like Elizabeth doesn't know what Sue is doing. Interesting. We're at the midpoint now, or maybe not. It's just such a different script and I'm struggling to figure it out. But let's take a break and reflect. Thus far, I'm incredibly amazed by the original script. I've recently made a list about the top 10 original movies still to come in 2025, and I'm so glad that I chose The Substance as my next watch because it's simply phenomenal thus far. It feels like a reimagining of Cinderella, but way more adult and expletive. Elizabeth calls the number back and tries to understand what has happened to her because of Sue. But as the voice says, there is no Elizabeth and Sue. There's only one, and what was used past the permitted time is lost to the other one. Her refill has been delivered once again, so she prepares herself for her next adventure as Sue, but this time she meets someone, another one like her, who creeps her out and asks if her other has started eating away at her. He warns her about the loneliness. She gets scared and runs away. She doesn't want to return to being Sue, but she stops feeling beautiful. And before you know it, she swaps again. Sue notices that Elizabeth has started to eat a lot. The network wants her to host a New Year's show. She accepts, and I bet she will not be the one in charge come New Year's Eve. She also starts exploiting Elizabeth more and more, draining more stabilizer fluid, unwilling to give control back. When she finally does give control back, Elizabeth now looks like a shell of herself. She has been consumed too much. But she can't stop. She took too much from Elizabeth as Sue, and she cannot stop it anymore. And it makes sense, her life as Elizabeth is awful. Elizabeth watches Sue on television as she gives an interview basically humiliating Elizabeth. And she cooks about a dozen meals that she chows down amid a mental breakdown. Elizabeth has completely lost it as she has arguments with herself about Sue. But she gives up control. And Sue is angry about the mess in the apartment that she made. Leftover food everywhere, a real mess. So she decides to never give control back. She milks Elizabeth for all that she has. That was the end of Act 2. My goodness, this has turned into a real psychological thriller, although it was the only direction that it could go. There is some terrific social commentary here. Play sexy, win ratings, become a star. Lose your sense of beauty and soon you will crave another life. The performance of both Demi and Margaret Qualley are just too good, and I know that both of these actors received the justified praise. I just cannot wait to see what the third act has in store. 3 months later, and the New York show is tomorrow. But there is no more she can milk out of Elizabeth. She has to give back control to get more fluid. Sue can barely resist the pain, so she gives up control. Her boyfriend was in the apartment, and when he hears the strange noises coming from the bathroom, he wants to investigate. Elizabeth closes the door in time, but then she takes a look in a mirror and she looks like a ghoul. She scares the boyfriend into leaving. She calls a number and tells the other person that she wants to stop. He says that they'll deliver something, and now all she has to do is inject Sue with a termination vial. She starts injecting but stops before administering the entire vial. Sue starts bleeding out of her nose and Elizabeth wants her to come back, so she gives her blood. Sue recovers, but they are now two separate entities. When Sue sees the termination vial, she attacks Elizabeth. She smashes her head against the bathroom mirror. That's brutality. And in the end, Sue kills her. This was very graphic and very hard to watch. Sue is going to do the show, but she does not feel like herself. It seems that killing Elizabeth has ruined her. She starts losing teeth, nails, and she thinks that using another activator vial will get her a better her and that she will finish her performance. The activator is single use only, so when she injects herself, she becomes a monster. If this movie would have stopped here, I think it would have been the better ending. Because next, she goes to her performance, people are scared of her, and then she just sprays blood on everyone. And just like that, problem solved. After the performance, Sue probably still got invited to the after party. You know Hollywood, they'll ignore a murder if the ratings were good. The Substance is a fantastic film. First of all, it feels original and like art, but never pretentious or too difficult to understand. The body horror is, disgusting, but it's supposed to be like that. It's overly sexualized, something I don't like. I understand social commentary, but you put a lot of sex on screen just like what you're preaching against. The performance of Demi and Margaret Qualley are just too good, some of the best of the year, and The Substance feels like a much needed breath of fresh air. And now you've just seen The Substance through my eyes. Let me know down in the comments, would you ever trade your life for a better version of yourself if it meant giving up control? And if you like this breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe. I've got more twisted films coming your way. Until next time, keep on watching movies, guys.